So I don't know if anyone else has noticed this the past couple of years, but it seems like all of these new record deals are going up and up and up in price to like ridiculous amounts, where I just don't see how any of these labels are really making money, or these artists are paying back the money to recoup and then profit from it. So this got me thinking, especially with like, say, Trippie Redd, who took allegedly a $30 million deal for strictly 3 albums, along with many other artists publicizing hundreds of millions of dollars for their catalogs or just their new albums. And when you calculate how many streams you actually need from your fans to pay this debt off, it would take like tens to even hundreds of years, which really doesn't seem like a good investment, at least from the way I was looking at it before. Like, just to put things into perspective, if we check out this $30 million deal by Trippie Redd and we divide it by 0.003, which is how much money you get per stream on, say, Spotify on average. And of course, there are other platforms. However, Spotify is the most popular, where you're going to get the most streams. And that would equate to about 10 billion streams. And from the average amount of streams Trippie Redd is currently accumulating monthly, which is say like 30 million, that would take 333 months or 27 years. Do you really think that the label is going to wait 27 years to make back their money from Trippie Redd? And I understand a lot of these deals are 360, meaning that it doesn't necessarily just encompass the money they make off streaming, but also merch, tour, any other licensing deals with TV shows, etc., etc. So of course they can shorten this amount of time. However, once again, I think that there is one last maneuver, let's say, the labels pull, where they make a big bag off of all of these artists that most people don't even know about. And if the $30 million deal wasn't big enough for you just yet, well, Drake last year, the year before, just signed a whopping $400 million deal. And I know Drake is a streaming god. However, $400 million in streams still comes out to like an unimaginable number. It literally pulls up like the little E symbol on my calculator. So again, if we have to calculate how many streams $400 million would take to recoup, it would be 133 billion streams. Let's even say that Drake gets 1 billion streams per month, which I'm not even sure is true. And again, let's not forget the fact that these newer deals, it's not necessarily for their catalog, it's for the newer albums. So the 400 million, I'm not entirely sure what Drake's deal is, but Trippie Redd's was. It wasn't buying any of the rights to his past catalog. It was buying for the next 3 albums. And as much as I love Trippie Redd's music, I just don't feel like he is at that caliber as he was. And so I don't know if his music is really as valuable as it once was, unless you're buying the past catalog. But anyway, if Drake is getting 1 billion streams per month, that would be 133 months or 11 years, which actually doesn't seem all too bad, again, because allegedly this is a 360 deal. So it also encompasses tours, which he's on this worldwide or nationwide thing with 21 Savage in arenas, so that could easily pay it back, plus all of the merch collabs with Nike and Jordan. So honestly, I believe that he could pay it back in less than 10 years for sure. However, the speculation with his particular deal is that he still owns his masters, which I believe is where a lot of these labels make that big money that I keep alluding to. Which brings me to the topic of catalogs. So I know y'all have seen in the recent years that a lot of these artists such as Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, Future, Lil Wayne are selling their masters for up to $250 million. That was Dr. Dre. Future sold his for around $75 million. Metro Boomin sold his publishing for $70 million. And of course, as we are avid music listeners, we understand that a lot of these albums that artists release gets a bulk of the streams within the first week or a year, just because music fades out. And we know how many new artists come out every single month and year on TikTok and other platforms. And so music becomes stale after a while, after you listen to it too many times. And so it really, in a way, does not make sense. Buy an old catalog for at least some of the artists, not the ones that I listed necessarily, because all of those are classics. But even with Future, Justin Bieber, Dr. Dre, any of these large artists, their streams are likely going to slowly decline throughout the years, just because they're getting less relevant as more newer artists come into the game. Now, this isn't a rapper, but allegedly Bruce Springsteen even sold his catalog for reportedly $500 million. So again, it makes me wonder, how does one make back $500 million from their investment and some for a profit so that it was actually worth it all? Are these record labels even necessarily paying out these large sums of money to artists for their albums they're creating, or buying old catalogs so that they can make money on a monthly basis for the streams? I don't think so, because a term that's become more apparent throughout the last, say, 10-15 years, with a lot of businesses going bankrupt in the recent recessions, is like a zombie company. A large firm will go public, people will buy their stocks or shares. However, they will literally be making no money. Some of the largest companies that we still use today are like this, such as like Uber and Amazon, excluding AWS. But a lot of these tech firms, granted, there are tax incentives to not necessarily making money on paper so that you don't show a profit and then you don't have to pay taxes. However, a lot of these companies are actually zombies ready to go bankrupt. They're strictly valued upon how much revenue they're bringing in on a monthly basis, not actually their profits. And so I think this concept has translated into the music industry, in that a lot of these catalogs might not even be making back the money that you invested in, like $500 million, for another 150 years. However, because of inflation, or just because of the popularity of the artist, or whatever other metrics there are, in like the next 10 years, even if they didn't make their money back, which they likely did not, they might be able to sell that catalog for $600-700 million, or whatever the next bid is. And so a lot of these music catalogs have virtually just turned into assets, similar to investors just buying another real estate property that might not necessarily be making money right now through rent, but like in the next 10 years, people seeing the property value appreciating by $1 million. So that's the only reason they invest in it. But with all that being said, there is allegedly data that some of these catalogs are still making money, potentially more than even the stock market, at like a modest 4 to 8% on average per year. And so a lot of these investment firms like BlackRock and the largest companies in the world are investing into catalogs. One music investment firm, Royalty Exchange, boasts a dividend yield of 12%. And so perhaps my comparison to real estate might actually apply in this scenario as well, in that you buy a house and you rent it out, aka the streaming revenue or licensing or whatever else they can do with the master recordings of the music. And within like 9 to 10 years with this 12% return, they can make all their money back. And then after that, profit entirely, especially with different marketing tactics where, say, a firm just bought Future's discography and they have connections to different movie studios, so they get one of his songs played in the new Fast and Furious. Of course, because it's played in the soundtrack of the movie, one, they get money from the synchronization or licensing, and two, likely that song is going to become more popular because it's associated with another popular brand or movie. But all in all, I still don't know if all of these exorbitant deals that labels are paying out to artists really make any sense. If you remember what happened in the 2008 housing crash, it occurred because there was so much demand for housing that people were willing to spend anything on a house, like $1 million, thinking that it was always going to go up, but eventually it crashed. It wasn't based on any financial basis. And so I think with all these financial firms who have billions or even trillions of dollars in the ecosystem, they've boosted the prices of these catalogs, and record labels being able to spend tens of millions of dollars on rappers who may or may not fall off in like the next 3 to 5 years. But this is exactly why the record labels always want to own the masters, even if they're paying some sort of the royalties to the artist, even a large percentage, so that on the back end they can sell it potentially for 10x of what they actually paid the artist. And for all the artists who do fail or fall off in the next 3 to 5 years, and then their catalogs really end up being valued at nothing or not as much as the label gave them in the first place in the advance, it simply just becomes a write-off. Because if you think about it, a record label is just a venture capital firm where they're investing in a bunch of startups or intellectual property of artists. And so of course 99 out of the 100 artists that they give money to are gonna fail, but that one last one in the 100 is going to make up for the rest of them and even more. And so they're just hoping for that one large payout at the very end, 5-10 years down the line, like the examples that we listed at the very beginning of this video. It's just crazy when you think about it, because a lot of these record labels aren't even making money on a monthly or yearly basis. They just want to buy the catalog so they can sell it later on, which I guess is exactly what these investment firms are doing and why they practically own the world. So if you're trying to make money, I guess, just sell all your businesses or intellectual property, to the people who have hella bread. But with all that being said, it has been your boy Bobbalam signing off, selling my catalog for a Starbucks cup of coffee because your boy just ran out, and this YouTube check definitely ain't paying hundreds of millions of dollars. Of course, let me know in the comments what you think about this whole situation. Do you think that these artists' catalogs should be valued at hundreds, 200s, 300 millions of dollars? And don't forget to like, subscribe to the Bob Game if you with it. Peace out, clap people. Nothing.